And so I'd like to move on to our next presenter, our third presenter, the final. And we're going to switch departments now. So we're going to switch over to the Department of Agriculture. And, I think before I get Cindy started here, I think agriculture it's certainly an interesting department. It's very broad, lots of things going on in that department. That's also where the pesticide program lives, and that can be challenging. And we know that sometimes agriculture has gotten a bad rap with respect to pollinator conservation, just because of, as Dave Goulson mentioned, big agricultural properties that are monocultures, the excessive use of pesticides that farmers feel like they really need, and the invasive weeds, invasive pests, things like that, and figuring out ways to control them. On the other hand, there's also some great things that are happening in agriculture in terms of regenerative soil projects. Farmers transitioning to less chemically intensive ways of farming, and lots of other things. So I'm going to pass it on to Cindy to sort of thread that needle about how to balance the pollinator protection and conservation with agricultural needs, and what you're doing as the program manager of the Colorado State Conservation Board and other conservation programs in the Colorado Department of Agriculture. So take it away, Cindy.
Right. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, everybody. And really loved that that nice video, Mindy. That was inspiring just to see the pictures. So I look forward to going back and listening to the dialogue that goes with it. Sue, I wanted to check in with you as to timing, how much time I have, since I'm kind of wrapping up the panel.
Well, we've got a good amount of time. This goes till 11:50, and we're going to divide up into breakout rooms when we're done. And so that's flexible.
Okay. All righty. I'm going to share my screen and get going. Get into that mode. All right. Hopefully you can see everything now, my presentation. Well, again, good morning. I'm Cindy Lair with the Colorado Department of Agriculture. I'm located within the Conservation Services Division, and I manage the Colorado State Conservation Board. Over the last couple of years, we've had lots of changes going on, and I think hopefully by the end, I think you'll agree that most of them are very positive changes. And so I'm excited to be able to talk with you about them today. Just a little bit about myself. My husband and I keep a couple of hives of bees in urban Denver, in the middle of Denver. And bees are such a priority in our life that I even bake cakes and decorate cakes that are of bee nature. And so, other than the fact that the bees were killed by our most recent drastic temperature reduction that we had in September, that just is a direct hit. We look at it from the impacts of climate change, and it's hard on everybody, including our honeybees. So I'm going to talk to you more today about state and federal agricultural policies and programs. Clearly, I work for the state of Colorado. I do not represent the federal government, but I wanted to spend a few moments to talk to you about what the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service does with their programs that influences pollinator habitat and supports programs for promoting pollinators on private agricultural lands. So these are the things that I'm going to cover a little bit today in my presentation with you. The apiary program within the Department of Agriculture's Division of Plant Industry, the NRCS, like I said, and I'm going to tell you about some things that I'm working more directly on, the Soil Health Initiative, as well as the creation of an Agricultural Climate Resilience Office that Commissioner Kate Greenberg is anxious to create within the department. Okay. So the This is the program, the apiary program is one that I don't work with or for. It's in a separate division, like I said before, but if you go to their website, it is a page within the Colorado Department of Agriculture. You will see that the overview of this program is they have conducted local research. They have a honeybee health survey. There are recommended activities that are beneficial to pollinators. There's a lot of education on the site and information on native pollinators. They talk about pesticide safety and pollinator protection, especially when applying pesticides, and then also the managed beehives and the which we in a lot of ways consider livestock, and and trying to help different local beekeepers work with and be successful in keeping honeybees in the state. The sad part that I have to say is that there is no funding for this program, and it isn't staffed. And so there are people in the Division of Plant Industry that are doing the best they can to keep up with the needs of this website and the needs of the beekeepers in Colorado, but it's struggling. And so I just wanted to make this point that they really could use more funding in this area. Moving along, I do want to talk more about positive things that are going on for pollinators, especially with the USDA NRCS. They have several programs that are funded through the Farm Bill, and the two that I want to talk about are the conservation the conservation stewardship program, and they have a special funding cycle that is for establishing pollinator and beneficial insect habitat. And so farmers and ranchers can get paid for providing more habitat for pollinators. This is a technical sheet that tells farmers and ranchers what they could get paid for by participating in this program. And they also have provided some very beneficial technical notes that go into greater detail about how to maintain better habitat for beneficial insects. And they're quite specific as far as the areas go. This one I have up on the screen is for Eastern Utah and Western Colorado. The other program that NRCS offers that I think is important to note is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, also known as EQIP. And this is the workhorse of all of NRCS's financial assistance and technical assistance programs. And I will note that in the 2018 Farm Bill, it was mandated that 10% of all EQIP dollars going out into the field had to be focused on wildlife habitat improvements. And within that, those monies could include pollinator habitat as well. And so I work a lot with the NRCS as the manager for the Colorado State Conservation Board. I work closely with the 76 conservation districts. They too are actively involved. I say not every one of them, but most of them are involved in promoting pollinator habitat through different programs that they offer. And they also are trying to connect landowners as well with the EQIP program and the CSP program through NRCS. In our discussions, pollinator habitat improvement and providing forage opportunities for pollinators and beneficial insects is an ongoing conversation that I hear them having with landowners on a regular basis. So it is, I've been impressed over the years to see how it has become an active part of what they discuss with landowners in conservation planning activities. and so I really do give a shout out that I think NRCS is doing really good things when it comes to promoting pollinators and beneficial insects for agricultural producers. I'm going to move into something that's near and dear to my heart. This is a concept that we started talking about in 2016. And it wasn't immediately grabbed up and moved forward in the department until we got our beloved Commissioner Kate Greenberg as our commissioner. It was one of the first conversations I had with her in January of 2018 when she came on board as our commissioner, and she said, what kind of programs do you think we should be working on that we aren't already? And I said, soil health is something that I think that would be very important for us to be starting to work on. And it quickly became one of the department's wildly important goals. And it's sewn in very tightly within the greenhouse gas reduction roadmap that Tim referred to in his presentation a little bit earlier. One of the main parts of that is that it is going to be voluntary. It is going to be incentive-based. It's not something that we can force on people. And I also have to mention that when I've talked to farmers about having a soil health program, one of the things they have talked to me about is, well, Cindy, we've been working on building soils for decades, and I've had no-till going on my farm for 20 years. Some of us think that we're already doing good things for soil health. And so I do acknowledge that. And the department isn't interested in telling farmers how to farm, but bringing them closer to the available resources that are out there, making glide paths to improving soil health easy for them if they want to build on what they're already doing. And so I really like to make sure that that's noted, that telling people how to farm isn't what we're here to do, but giving them access to different tools that they may not have been able to use, or to help offset the costs involved in changing practices is what we're trying to do, and helping create better policies that so that they don't conflict with one another. Because within USDA, I'm sorry to say that we do have some policies that get in the way or that provide barriers to some of the conservation activities we're trying to do. And that includes promoting pollinators too. I'll get into some of those a little bit later. But I am happy to always recommend the SARE program. It's the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program. It is governed by regions, or it serves different regions. There's 4 regions in the country for the SARE program. And so we fall under the Western SARE program, of course. But this is a fabulous publication that they've created. They put out a lot of dollars for researching sustainable ag techniques for farmers and ranchers, and they also include a lot of outreach and publications with their funding. This is one of the many publications they have that is supportive for pollinators and beneficial insects. One of the things that this publication touches on that I think is important is the types of cover crops that are available, the cool season, the warm season, expanding the offerings for beneficial insects so that they have a longer season of plants that are flowering and available for them to utilize for feed. Boy, the picture that Mindy showed earlier of the lone goldenrod plant with the 15 different insects on it, yeah, that's a problem and that's a challenge. And so what I'm excited about most with cover crops is the benefits that they provide to pollinators and both native and honeybees as well. And so there's great habitat as well as feed that is provided in that. I mentioned earlier about the USDA policies. One of the things I point out is they do require a termination time. There's a time that the cover crop has to be terminated in order for that farmer to be eligible to receive that crop insurance payment if something happens to their actual cash crop that they're farming. And so what causes the problem is if they have to terminate while the cover crop is flowering. If they're terminating the cover crop after it's done flowering, it causes less problems. But we all know that there's going to be some negative effects when they're terminating the crop, just because of inevitably you're going to have some things flowering even late in the season. Lair in this document, and as well as other outreach documents they create, they are providing many best management practices to minimize the harm to foraging bees and other pollinators. But with the soil health practices that we are wanting to promote with our program, it's including but not limited to cover crops. I really talked a lot about cover crops in this presentation because I think, of all the things we're doing for soil health, I think that the cover crop side of it is going to be the most of interest for you all as it pertains to beneficial insects. But so the cover crop side of it, we're promoting more with no-till, using stripper heads in the harvesting of small grains. Also, strip tillage is another way that they can minimize tillage. And then managing grazing on cover crops. If we can integrate grazing animals and manage grazing on cover crops, it's amazing how much quicker we're able to transition and improve the functionality of those soils. We're trying to improve crop rotations so that we can have other types of crops that may not be used in Colorado. We're trying to bring on new types of crops that could be included in the rotations and that would add different benefits to the soil too. Composting is something that we haven't really gotten much into at the Department of Agriculture, but in the last legislative session, there was a bill that was introduced to compel the Department of Public Health and Environment and the Department of Ag to work together, create a study and look at what we could be doing to promote more composting agriculturally from the supply side and the utilization side, so supply and demand side. That bill didn't go through due to the COVID challenges that we were faced with in the legislature. However, the two departments, the Department of Agriculture as well as CDPHE, decided, hey, this is a request from the composting industry for us to look at this. CDPHE has put $150,000 into a study that will take place. And so we're working together to find more ways that we can improve the supply and demand side of composting in agriculture. So I'm excited to work on that. We have pollinator strips that go next to cropping fields that are cropped with a cash crop. And I have some photos to show you of that. And then also just reduced chemical inputs, as well as reducing fuel consumption. Those are all things that I think are great about the different soil opportunities that producers could be taking advantage of. So with our program, we're going to be providing more access to technical assistance. We're going to look more closely at the market opportunities that come with this. We hear a lot about carbon markets and ecosystem services markets, and also pollutant trading. I won't talk a lot about those now. Maybe if you have questions in our breakout sessions, I'd be glad to cover some of those topics a little bit more. But we want to provide incentive payments. And I think what I like about the market opportunities is traditionally farmers and ranchers get government payments either through the state or especially through the federal agencies to do conservation practices. Sometimes I find that when the incentive payments go away, sometimes they go back to their old ways of farming. What I like about the market opportunities, those are going to be perpetual. And if producers are getting paid to manage their soil a different way, or manage for pollinators, or water quality benefits, air quality benefits, climate benefits, they will be able to, there's a built-in incentive for them to continue to do that. And that's from a private market and not so much of a government payment, which is music to a lot of farmers and ranchers' ears. So I'm excited to build that out as we move our soil health program down the road, and our greenhouse gas reduction roadmap that Tim referred to earlier down the road. So stay tuned for more information about that in the coming years. But we are also going to be applying for funding through NRCS to bring the Soil Health Partnership to Colorado. The Soil Health Partnership is a program that is run by National Corn Growers, the Nature Conservancy. Oh gosh, there's a lot of different partners in the Soil Health Partnership, hence the name. But they work with the production ag, which is usually larger scale agriculture, to help them convert to some of the practices I've just mentioned, and help them see how it affects their bottom line and creates more resilience and drought tolerance. It has been a very successful program in the Midwest. It's been a success, and it's made it as far west as Kansas, and we would really like to bring it into Colorado. You hear a lot about soil health programs and cover cropping in the Midwest. And I think it's important to note the reason it's been slower to take off in Colorado and other Western states is the sheer reality of our arid environments. And farmers and ranchers are dealing with minimum water as it is. And a lot of them tell us, well, why would we use our precious water that we barely have enough of to grow a crop to stay in business? Why would we plant something that we're not going to be able to harvest? And so there's a lot of discussion about how that works, and also increased amount of research through Colorado State University on this topic. And they're actually finding that if you are able to get cover crops to grow, which they won't grow everywhere, it is dry. Some areas of the state, it's not going to be successful. So pushing that is not going to get us very far as a Department of Agriculture when we're being told that it doesn't work in some areas. However, I bring your attention to some of these other practices that we're trying to help promote, even if cover crops aren't an option. So just because they're able to work in the Midwest, keep in mind those are more mesic environments. They have more dependable water, and so we have a lot more hurdles to get over in promoting this, and also getting more producers to adopt it. There are reasons why they haven't adopted some of these practices over the past, but we're hoping that through some of the research that CSU is doing, that we will bring more informed procedures for transitioning into some of these practices over time, because it does take a lot more thought than some of the areas back east. So, and the other thing that we find is especially helpful is peer-to-peer mentoring. And we work a lot with Extension and NRCS and providing technical assistance, but sometimes it's the farmers look to each other, and we do everything we can to support more of that. And that will be part of the soil health program we're coming up with. We've had a great relationship with the Colorado Collaborative for Healthy Soils. That's how I met Joyce Kennedy, actually. And I can't tell you of a better stakeholder process that I've ever worked with in my life, but they've been very instrumental in helping the Department of Agriculture create a funded soil health program through this stakeholder input, and also creating sound policy and meaningful legislation. They are creating, or they have created, draft legislation to put into place this soil health program. And right now they're working on gathering sponsors for it. And they've also applied for quite a bit of funding. And I'll get into that. I have another slide that describes that. And we're also implementing a program that has been opened up in Illinois by conservation districts, the STAR program. And it's STAR stands for Saving Tomorrow's Agricultural Resources. It's a questionnaire and a framework that helps at the local level begin those discussions with farmers and ranchers, and asking them what they're doing now, asking them what they would like to be doing. It gives them a star rating. They could get up to 5 stars, and usually they start with 1 or 2 stars, no matter what they're doing, and it gives them the resources to build up to getting 5 stars. And then there are marketing opportunities for them to have signage and labeling to demonstrate to their consumers that their crop is produced with soil health and water quality values in mind. Let's see, so some of the grants and partnerships that have come through have been through the Gates Family Foundation. The CCHS, the Colorado Collaborative for Healthy Soils, has applied for the Gates Family Foundation grant, and also the Wallace Family Research Foundation. They're also applying for a 319 grant, which is a non-point source water quality goal program that is funded through EPA, and it comes through the Department of Public Health and Environment. So we're getting funding through those different groups. I was able to get a grant through DNR, the Colorado Water Conservation Board, this year. Sadly, the funding had to be pulled back in because of the COVID, and also severance tax fund reductions. And so we will keep working with the CWCB, because there are other opportunities that we can blend our goals to promote better water utilization through improved soil health. And the Lower Arkansas Valley Water Conservancy District has been providing funding for some of our work as well with the Collaborative for Healthy Soils. So I just wanted to point out a few of our committed partners with this. Colorado State University Extension and the experiment stations have been part of this. NRCS, the Lower Arkansas Valley Water Conservancy District, the State Conservation Board, as well as the Colorado Coalition for the Enhancement of Working Lands. We call that group COCOOL. And there are a lot of different organizations, nonprofits that are participating with that group as well. I wanted to point out our Agricultural Climate Resilience Office concept that has come out. We've just been able to start talking about it this week, because of it was included in Governor Polis's budget. I want to point out, just because it was included in Governor Polis's budget, it doesn't have an additional funding request attached to it. It is really going to take funds from different departments and reorganize, I should say, different divisions of CDA. And it's going to create this Office of Agricultural Climate Resilience, so that we can better focus on the greenhouse gas reduction roadmap and our responsibilities within the agricultural sector for building more climate resilience. We have so many opportunities. At least that's how I look at them within the department, looking at we would be merging different programs within this office, and it would still stay within the Division of Conservation Services. But some of the programs that would be built into this would be the Agricultural energy efficiency and the agricultural renewable energy program. We call that Acre 3. I didn't include that in this slide, but the soil health program, the Colorado State Conservation Board, which I work with, we would put more focus and effort towards conservation easements. And like I said, the carbon and ecosystem services markets, water conservation as it applies to soil health. And I put in caps here, inventory. One of the things we've found as we've worked on the greenhouse gas reduction roadmap is we have very little inventory when it comes to really understanding what we have as far as active carbon sequestration goes on our working lands. And so we would be building inventory into that, into this office as well. Wanted to point out some of our other activities that we're working on. Some of us, we have a couple of us on our team within the Department of Ag as well as within DNR to participate in the Natural and Working Lands Working Group of the U.S. Climate Alliance. And we also have an interagency Natural and Working Lands Task Force to work on climate solutions, and that our list of things that we are working on is becoming so long that we're actually just today talking about dividing ourselves up into subcommittees to better handle the workload that we're creating for ourselves on some of these tasks. But and then also, like I said to you, this Colorado Resiliency Office that I have on this slide is different, and it's within DOLA. The Department of Local Affairs has a Colorado Resiliency Office that looks at it much more broadly than the natural and working land side that I'm connected to. But the Resiliency Office is working directly with impacts to climate change and how it applies to rural communities and different sectors of our population, and trying to make sure that not any group is left out from being considered for economic resiliency and things like that. So this is my last slide, and I think what I'm most happy about as we talk about soil health and the climate work that we are doing within the Department of Agriculture and state government, I think more than ever, I would say this effort is reducing the silos that we've gotten ourselves into. Different state agencies have gotten themselves into silos over the years. It just happens when you get overworked and overloaded, and you just have less and less time to reach out and work with other departments or other divisions. But the same thing goes within programs of the Department of Ag and divisions within the Department of Ag. And this work has caused us and really incentivized us to cross-cut across different agencies and different divisions. And I think that's going to lead to more success. We have to be doing that because, as you've heard by numerous presentations, there really isn't any more money out there in state government. So we're doing all we can to apply for grants within the private sector and within the different foundations that are available out there, as well as federal government, to take these initiatives and move them forward so they can be successful. So I just like to close with this quote from Henry Ford: "Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, but working together brings success." So that's the end of my presentation today, and I'm looking forward to our breakout groups. So thanks for inviting me, Joyce and Sue, and we can move on.
Great, thank you so much, Cindy. And thank you to all three of our presenters, Tim, Mindy, and Cindy, talking about works that's happening at the state agency level. All of it is really important and critical work in different ways. Some of the, range from land management kinds of issues to climate change issues to, potentially agricultural incentives to encourage changes to the agricultural systems. Those are all very, very important topics.